Am I audible at the end? Okay, thanks. So I think some of you must be thinking that, for my profile, what I have to do with agriculture. And as my profile says, I lead globally the software engineering research in Accenture Tech Labs. And for some of you who don't know about Accenture, we are a $31 billion company operating out of 120 countries across the globe. Can I have the timer, please, so that I know that, yeah. Across the globe, and we work across 5 major industries: financial services, communication, high-tech, products, resources, health and public service. About 358,000 employees around the world. And what my team does, we are part of the Global Research and Development Organization. We run the labs. We look at what are the trends, technology, visions, we create the visions, and then we use that to apply it to specific industry context. So the Bangalore lab is one of the 6 big labs around the world for Accenture. I lead the Bangalore lab, and we do a lot of research in digital technologies. Software engineering being one of our prime focus area. We earn $15 billion building software and maintaining software. And also try and see how technologies can be used to solve real problems, especially in India. How do you use them to solve problems specific to India, right? And that's what finds me in the Digital India program. I'm currently working with a lot of other industry leads to set up the standards and so on and so forth as part of the governing council. As I said, the lab does research in digital. We try and apply it to various contexts. In India, one of the big unsolved problem has been the various farmer suicides we keep hearing about, and we keep wondering why nobody's doing anything about it. And with that in mind, about 3 years back, we thought about building a solution on an experimental basis. We used it in the state of Karnataka. My colleague here, Natraj, will give you a deep dive on that solution. And what we observed was, well, not only was it a well-received solution in India, it ended up being a very promising solution for Accenture in other developing geographies. Like we sold recently a similar solution in Indonesia, for example, South Africa, and so on and so forth. So what started up as an experiment became a big offering for us. You'll hear more about it from Natraj. Accenture typically is looking at agriculture as a big area of interest. It's almost $500 million worth of work for us. And we actually address this in 2 ways. One is precision agriculture, which is more fine-tuned for the developed nations, where the farmers have large farm holdings, and their challenges are very different. And then we have the connected crop solutions. You'll hear a lot about it today, which is more focused towards small farmers and the challenges they have. We all know the issues agriculture has. I don't have to repeat it. The huge population, 9.6 billion by 2050. The middle class with money to buy food growing by 2030 to 5 billion. The precision agriculture market itself is growing at 12.2% compounded annual growth. It will be 4.5 billion by 2020. So this is a big business opportunity for us. And we are very excited with the success we are having. I would call upon my friend Natraj, a farmer, an entrepreneur, a prolific researcher. We have collectively have many patents, and I want him to walk you through what we have been doing in the lab.
Thank you, Sanjay.
Thanks,
I think
Natraj.
it is very kind of you to make me. It look very good in terms of this in front of this audience. So what I will do quickly, I will just dive deep into what actually is happening and what has Accenture got to do with agriculture, what's happening in the context. I think I'll just remove this too much of verbiage here. So if you look at this slide here, so smallholder farmers, that's what you heard earlier, isn't it? Like smallholder farmers are the people who are the most vulnerable of the lot. So they are the guys who don't have access to technology. They are the guys who actually, if you look at the 80% of food supply in Asia and Africa, is actually done by them, is given by them. And they are the most vulnerable. And if you look at all the climate changes, you can see Chennai and you can see the other things happening now. They are the guys who are going to get hit very first and very fast. So how is that, how can we, so if you look at China and India and Indonesia, so I was in Indonesia I think few months back and I was talking about the similar topic. So this is an adaptation of what I presented there. Everybody, all these regions have this similar problem. Smallholder farmers, how do we get them? And if you look at companies, big companies, they are trying to figure out what should be the business model in which you can engage smallholder farmers. So it's not just technology; it's all about tying up all the partners together and make sure that it's viable for everybody in the value chain. So that is one of the key things we figured out, that it's just not technology, but the complete value chain which makes sense. So example here, one of the key things is that the farmers don't pay for the solution. So they are the recipients, but they don't pay. So that's what the whole thing is all about. So if you look at the, there is a lot of knowledge available in agro input companies and research and in the agriculture universities. It could be, and then the smallholder farmer, there is a big chasm between them. And if you look at what government has done, so you have Krishi Sampark Kendras, you have extension workers, you have a lot of activity happening, you have the Doordarshan, you have the TV, you have broadcast, everything has become one way. And so we find that there is a big chasm because the farmers, the agro input companies are not able to reach the farmers. So if you look at what, so what does it mean? It means that the fertilizers, micronutrients, pesticides, everything is available with the farmers, with the agro input companies, but farmers typically overuse them. So what we have figured out is that they put more fertilizers into the soil. They use macro fertilizers even more. Nothing about micro fertilizers. I think a lot of them don't even do soil testing. So what happens is that because the soil fertility reduces, as you all know well, and that actually impacts the the fertilizer companies because they are not able to sell to the farmers. So the whole idea is that the fertilizer company is supposed to sell in a broad-based way, get all the people together and make sure that right quantity of fertilizers is used at the right time. So if you look at the broad thing, if you look at the smallholder farmers, I think we are 50 to 60% less than the global average of productivity, and it's over generations it remains same. Actually, it's actually decreased because of overuse of fertilizers and groundwater, etc. And what is possible? What is possible is very high. So you could actually have a very good yield over time. And if you look at the agro input companies, so they have been struggling all the while to increase their sales. And sales is so what happens is that because they are not able to reach the farmers due to the geographic distribution as well as because of connectivity issues, they are also not able to sell. So what do? So they are losing big potential in terms of sale of their fertilizers and pesticides and micronutrients, etc. Now, how do we address this solution of so this is information flow problem. So there is a big impedance mismatch between the information from the wherever it is there to the farmers. So how do we do that? That's where we came out with something called connected crop solution. So if you take India, I was hearing I think downstairs about if you design a solution which doesn't take into account India's constraints. For example, if you look at open signals and then look at where are all the signals available in India, it will look, if you zoom out, it will look as if whole India is covered. But as you drill down, you will figure out that it's only near the cities, only near the highways. So if you go to my village, you will have people going like this, trying to figure out where the signal, even BSNL signals. So imagine having a connected crop solution where there is no connectivity. So the idea is that how do you make sure that you build solutions which can work without connectivity? How do you make sure? And again, the skilled people. So we don't have skilled people who actually go into the field. Typically, these are all the extension workers which companies hire, and they are not very well educated. Is there a way to digitally upskill them? And when we mean digitally upskill them, is there a way where you could have cognitive simplicity? So idea is that if I am using an application, I want to know what to do with it. So it should be cognitively simple. And since this is a high-tech job with the farmers, we have to make sure that the farmer gets the right amount of information at the right time. Not give him a list of things to do and he forgets and he doesn't do. So idea is to go and keep that high-touch thing. And the whole thing is that since India has a lot of manpower, we want to make sure that the manpower which is already existing is being utilized, not put some other new solution on top of whatever is already existing. So that concept came out with output of it was something called connected crop solution. So what do we mean by the connected crop solution? The whole idea is that the idea is for the farmers to use the right macro fertilizers, right micronutrients, and proactive pest management. So it's not that after the pest happens, something he comes in and says, oh, something has happened. So it should be the right moment, right to the farmers. And if you look at the agro input companies, what do they gain? They gain that they want increase in sales, better demand predictability. As I think as they were discussing earlier here, in the 1 hectare or 1 acre of land, the farmer grows multiple crops. So is there a way to predict demand for the agriculture input companies so that they can predict that certain crops are grown in this region predominantly, or how should I stock my fertilizers and pesticides, etc. Higher productivity of field agents. So ideally the entire chain is, if you look at the entire chain, the key thing is the agriculture extension worker who is on the field trying to influence the farmers, trying to get him more knowledge, and since he is not being tracked, right now nobody knows what he does, like he just goes there, roams around, comes back, may not be doing anything because he is also not skilled, he does not know the new molecules, he does not know how to apply. So example, if it is a biofertilizers, even like I am having a lot of trouble in figuring out how to apply biofertilizer to my farm itself, even with sitting there googling and all that, it's too much of information and information not tuned to my requirements. So what it does is the yield needs to be increased to the farmers, and sale potential for the agro input companies also should increase. So this is the goal of the project. As I said, the whole goal of the project is to make sure that the entire thing is sustainable to all the parties involved, the agro input companies, the dealers, the field agents, the farmers. So if you look at the agricultural land in US, as people were talking about, Accenture also has something called connected, the precision agriculture services with sensors and all kinds of things. Similarly, if you look at what is available, what is required for India, typically this is the smallholder farmers with multiple crops, many farmers, difficult to predict demand, so a lot of issues here. So this is how typically it works. 200 farmers is associated with one field agent. So that's the way, it's all split up by most of the agro input companies. So one field agent is supposed to take care of 200 farmers, he never does, he doesn't even know what has to happen, what is supposed to happen. So that becomes a big issue. So what we do, so in the crux of the matter, the takeaway from here is that digitally upskill the field worker. So that we thought gives the biggest bang for the buck. When, as you saw, there are a lot of problems to be solved in agriculture, we can't solve all the problems, so we can't boil the ocean. So we thought, let's digitally upskill the field worker, who in turn influences the farmer, and that actually has given us very big results. So this is very similar to doctor prescribing a medicine to a patient. Earlier it was all, everybody used to get the same medicines, now they have genomics, you have like phenotypes, so it will be personalized medicine. So very similar thing we have done with agriculture, where each farmer gets to know of his soil type, he gets to know what he needs to do through the field agent, right amount of fertilizers, how much, when. You see, example, if I have a drip irrigation, or if I have flood irrigation, or if I have sprinkler irrigation, the way my fertilizer gets deployed is very different, and the products used also is very different. So all of these things are told to the farmers in a very customizable and a very nugget information format. So how does the solution work broadly? If you do it may become too much for you. The agro input companies have all the knowledge. They load that information, rules, recommendation onto the cloud platform, and similarly, the field agent has an application which is called Connected Crop on a small tablet. That tablet works without connectivity. So whenever there is connectivity, what happens is that he loads up the soil type, the crop, the area, what is grown into the cloud. In turn, he gets customized recommendation for each farmer. If he is growing tomato, brinjal in Hassan, maybe it's very different from tomato which is grown in, let's say, like South Canara or maybe North Canara. So you have a lot of different varieties. So all those things, like they call it as package of practice, isn't it? Like package of practice for various crops as well as for various regions. All of them get churned into in the cloud, comes back to the handle, and then onwards it becomes very routine for the field agent. Example, if a field agent is going to, every day he wakes up, he goes up, he opens up his tab and it says, oh, by the way, today A, B and C farmers are supposed to have grown this, and you are supposed to go and advise this to the farmer who is actually doing seedling transplantation. This farmer actually now is doing something about pest management. So it gives him a recommendation so that he can actually go and visit them and give them right information. So broadly, we did a pilot in southern India, 1,600 farmers. Then we had 29 crops, 6 districts. So our goal was to, first thing, as I said, that whole thing has to be effective for the entire value chain. So what we figured out is that sales effectiveness of the field agent should increase, demonstrate sales improvement for the agri input company, then demonstrate finally improvement for the crop yields. So that's how we figured out. So broadly, I think if you look at that, we solved that problem, and we could But don't look at, I think there is too much of data. So the key point here is that 75% of the farmers started taking inputs and the fertilizer from the same fertilizer company, which means there was high touch, and then he started buying from the same company. Because of that, there was a 56% year on year increase of the sale of fertilizers. Similarly, that the what do you call, sale of the effectiveness of the field agent improved dramatically. Now, if you look at the what is with the farmers. So, farmers, we figured out that out of 50 crops, an average 15% increase in the yield, and 30% sometimes for some crash crops, all because of just right information at the right time. We also have deployed a what do you call, a baby version of this on Karnataka One e-governance platform, and that has been used by multiple farmers, which is direct to farmers. So, the idea here is that what I just described is a high touch activity with the agents, and the similar version which is direct to farmers has been deployed, but it's been made as simple as possible as this. So, as you could see, it gives recommendation based on the crop he does, and it also has pest management. So, we thought nobody is going to use a smartphone for in agriculture. What we figured out is that in Karnataka, most of the backward, so-called backward districts are the guys who actually use smartphones, because that is the only way for them to go to the external world, and they use it very, very effectively. It went live on December 8th. So, what I will do is that not only this, we have put in a drone solution. So, the whole idea is that how does drone work here? Like the point is that, I think, can you just show the video? I think the video will explain to you what it does. So, it is high tech, but high touch also.
Flying over the specified path and altitude, while capturing the field shots at regular, specified intervals. As programmed, the moment the drone comes across a possible infested crop patch, it reduces its speed and lowers the altitude to capture better resolution photographs. Additionally, it alarms the agent with a beep sound, along with a visual flashing signal, as well. Notice the altitude drop here. At this point, let us take a pause and have a look at the background operations happening simultaneously. Actually, the installed multispectral camera can detect irrigation problems, soil variations, and even the pest and fungal infestations, which is not apparent at the eye level. This becomes possible as crops with fungal infections reflects less infrared radiation compared to the healthy ones.
Key feedback we got was that when the smallholder farmer means they have small hectares of land. So, when if I am an agent, I go to that village, I have 50 smallholder farmers, and I can't possibly go through each of their fields. So, the whole idea is he carries a small drone which has pre-programmed layouts of where it should go. He goes there, makes it fly, it goes and collects all the data, comes back, that data gets fed back into the cloud system, and then he gets a recommendation right there, so if as much as possible. So, this way we figured out that agent productivity also increases, as well as the right amount of knowledge which is sitting in the back end comes to the front. So, this is how we married. So, if you look at same thing has been done even in Indonesia. So, Indonesia, what has happened is that they have large plantations of hundreds and thousands of hectares. So, the same solution, what happened was that each half acre, 1 acre of parcel of land has been treated as a smallholder farmer. So, these large corporate timber companies using the solution, using it in a different fashion, where they use fixed wing aircraft to go across the 100 hectares, and wherever they find problems, then they let fly the drones which is rotary, so that it can hover and then come down and go up. Fixed wing, you can't do that. So, that way we have married both smallholder and largeholder farmers, and it's been extremely effective, and we were able to get extremely good results out of this. I think that's the very quick overview of what all we have done and in agriculture, and which has smart data, then sensors, as well as the IoT in terms of the drones flying across and getting data. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Nataraj. So, we didn't go through the precision agriculture, which is more for the North America market which we have, but nevertheless the central idea is same. It's building a very powerful platform or ecosystem where we bring various players whether it's the agri-input companies or the field agents or the farmers or the government or bankers, everybody together in one platform and able to share that data. Obviously, the precision agriculture platforms are much more expensive and much more complex that we sell in more developed world. Other thing to note is, you don't really need to have very expensive solution always. You can have very effective solutions at very interesting price points that makes it very attractive for local markets like India, emerging economies like India.
Yeah, so that was the reason, like farmers don't pay. So that is very effective for adoption, and what you pay is that since who is benefiting finally is the fertilizer company, so you take a percentage of it from the table and say, okay, this is my fees or something like that. So there are various business models. I think we have come out with 25 different business models on this specific thing where the end beneficiary doesn't pay. So that is the key thing in India.
In fact, the success in this project led us to do something similar with fish feeds as well, which is currently in progress. So that was an update from Accenture on digital agriculture, what we are doing. I don't know whether we have time for any, or we have time up, but
if you have any questions, I think you can send it
catch
across.
us, we are here. If you have any question, can we?
Go ahead.
Yeah, excellent work actually.
Thanks, thank you.
And the one question I had was, where do you get all this input, the domain knowledge that you need to program into the?
Well, I think it's an extremely valid question, and it's a very important question. What we have figured out is that most of the agro input companies don't have the spectrum of knowledge for all crops. So what we do is that when we go to the agro input companies, we take the knowledge from them and also from the other partners. So it's coming from the agro input company. What we do is that that knowledge is all distributed across. We codify them into a fashion which could be digested inside a computer system and be useful to the other IT systems available. So the knowledge comes from the agro input companies. It could be a chemical fertilizer company. It could be a biofertilizer company. It could also be traditional farming based knowledge which could be disseminated to the same channel. So it's not about only this agriculture, because I am also an organic farmer. So if somebody says it should be organic farming information, that can be fed through this whole chain. So it's agnostic of whether it's chemical or real biofertilizers or traditional knowledge of fertilizers.
If
So
I
the
may add,
financing is through those companies, is it?
Sorry?
The financing of this program is through those companies or what?
Yeah. So typically those companies have a vested interest of, in the sense that selling more of their products, and financing happens from that company.
yeah.
So that farmers can adopt it extremely easily.
So if I may add,
So how does the government look at that? Because it becomes company.
So there are two aspects. One is a private aspect of it. You go to a private part of it, and if you look at the other one which we did for Karnataka government, it's available, which is free of charge for anybody. So there could be a lot more fertilizer company coming onto board. So farmer will be given a choice. Do you want to take from Zuari, from Mangalore Chemical Fertilizers, Tata Chemicals, whatever it is? Choose one of them, and then it will give you the recommendation based on what is available in that product spectrum. So it's open to all in that platform, which is on Karnataka one. But for specific agro input companies, it will be their products.
Yeah, and if I may add, in fact, currently I told you about the similar activity for the fish feed. My researcher has not come back in the lab for the last 6 months. He's in the villages in Karnataka. He's roaming and living there. So that's a kind of investment. We don't work like a digital organization, 30,000 feet. And Accenture, as you know, is a very industry-focused organization. So we get this expertise not only from India, from all the pockets around the globe. So that adds to our domain knowledge. So we lead with industry rather than leading purely with technology. Otherwise, we can't create the solutions.
One last question.
Yeah.
Drones, are they cost effective?
Yes. So drones, sorry.